Hello and welcome to Square Raindrop. I'm Jo Wheeler.
And I'm Steff Galter, although my little tag is saying Square Raindrop. How confusing for everybody. That's not actually my name. Nobody goes around calling me Mrs. Raindrop or Square.
Are you sure about that now?
No, not at all.
Well, you have the strange name. I've got the strange face today. I've been attacked by a mosquito, which makes me look like I've done about 12 rounds with Mike Tyson or Frank Bruno, or in fact, probably both of them.
Is that why you've put a bright light behind you, so you're in the shadow?
That is absolutely why I put a bright light behind me. It's somewhat better. Although, in comparison to your picture, I know I'm looking a bit fuzzy, but fuzzy is good for today. Let's stay fuzzy. And
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, and Fuzzy Wuzzy was bitten by a mosquito.
Tell you something, yeah, Fuzzy Wuzzy doesn't want to be in Europe at the moment. That's a place that's very warm. The people with
that is not a place for Fuzzy Wuzzy bears. That is definitely true, Jo. Yeah, super hot. I mean, my goodness me. I spent 12 and a half years in the Middle East, and these are kind of Middle Eastern temperatures we're having in the Mediterranean at the moment. Not the kind of weather you expect if you go for a little summer holiday, thinking you get a little bit of warmth.
No, not at all. Although I'm absolutely amazed by the news footage, which is showing people still lying on the beach. Again, I lived abroad, and I tell you, once temperatures got up around 34, 35 degrees Celsius, you're not going outside. It's too hot to walk on any surface, just about. It's unpleasant. At those times, we literally stayed in all day, and then, maybe went for a bit of a swim in the middle of the night.
When it gets to over body temperature, if you've got a warm air blowing on you, it doesn't cool you down. It acts like a hairdryer. It heats you up. So once it gets to 37 and a tiny bit degrees, you don't want to be outside. So my only thought can be, obviously the seas aren't 40 degrees. So the sea must be colder, and therefore there's a sea breeze, and these people are on the beach desperate for that sea breeze. That's the only thing I can think of, because if it's over 37, they should be putting the ice creams on themselves rather than eating it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think the temperature they're looking at as the highest, 48.8, and there's some chance that might be broken.
48.8. We got to 50 point a smidgen once in Doha, and that you could feel your nostril hairs burning. Of course, I'm a lady, I don't have any, but if I had have done, that's how hot it would have been.
Well, you haven't got any now, is the point.
That's what I mean. But it's not the only place that's hot, is it, Jo? It's not only the Mediterranean.
No, things are heating up over the southern states of America. And Death Valley looks like breaking its own record, which I think is a worldwide record, in the next few days. So again, if you're heading for those areas, very, very hot in the south. And then just above that, we've got a load of severe thunderstorms, I think, in Tornado Alley.
We've had some really bad thunderstorms in the northeast of the states. So around New York itself, yes, saw thunderstorms, but New York State, in the north of the state, there was such bad thunderstorms that we saw some road collapse. There was a huge landslide. Some of the road disappeared. And then we saw cars floating in water where the water wasn't able to go down the hill. It was madness. It seems that you wouldn't expect from New York State.
That's insane. But of course now, here we are mid-July, we're 6 weeks into the hurricane season, and that all seems to have been quite quiet so far.
It usually is quiet during an El Nino year where the waters of the Pacific are slightly warmer than usual. But El Nino's only just started, so normally the waters change and then it has an effect on the atmosphere. It has to get going in the ocean first. So you wouldn't necessarily expect so much of an effect immediately, but it has been a bit of a damp squib up till now, but it's only July. It starts on the very end of May, beginning of June. So we got plenty of that still to go, Jo. I don't see that going away. The waters around the world seem to be warm at this time of year. So, the heating is really happening, and I wouldn't expect the entire season to be a damp squib. I mean, after all, you only need one bad storm for it to be remembered as a bad storm season.
Absolutely. And whilst we've got these events going on around the world, the heat over southern parts of North America, the thunderstorms, we've got some heavy monsoon rains, I think, for India at the moment, this immense heat over southern parts of Europe. And as far as we're concerned, it is autumn.
Yes, I did take a picture this morning and posted it on Twitter to say, this apparently is summer. Rain, cold, autumn. It does not look like summer at all. People are thinking, great, I'm going on holiday, then getting out of the aeroplane and thinking, is that the turbine of the plane blowing at me? No, that's the air of Southern Europe. So there's kind of no happy medium really at the moment. We've just got this spiraling area of low pressure, something that an old colleague of mine, Dan Corbett, used to call a washing machine, because you just get this whole winding area of low pressure bringing one weather system after another, and that's going to spiral across us. So it's just looking miserable.
I'll tell you something though, the weather is pretty horrendous right across this weekend. Heavy rain at the moment sweeping its way northwards across the country. We've seen wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Usual culprits, Mumbles, that's where that was recorded. And then those stronger winds transfer into central, southern, southeastern areas for the rest of the weekend. Very blustery, heavy showers as well. And that low pressure system just tracks its way up the western side, kind of stays with us. Temperatures about average for the time of year, though. Those are all right. And also...
I don't feel it, Jo. Not in the wind and the rain.
Right, but also the wind, I think yesterday provided something like 14% of all our power.
Oh, well, that's a little slither of good news you've just found.
Lining there.
Haven't you found that one?
It's a very tiny, tiny bit of good news, but it is good news. The bad news is there isn't much sign of the weather improving here until at least the end of the month. And that's a long way.
Do you know some of the slightly dodgier newspapers might have on their front cover the exact time when this weather will improve, things like that. The snow will hit, the rain will hit, the winds will hit. I can tell you the exact time that this weather is going to clear. When I go on my holidays, invariably that's when it's glorious here, and wherever I'm going, I'll throw it down.
Yeah, suddenly there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know, that's a little bit sad, isn't it? And I don't think that we can square Raindrop this week without asking about Hugh.
That's right. There was a lot of media speculation. It isn't nice on anyone to have such intense speculation on their lives at all. However, I would just like to spare a thought for the people who go to work and do have that unwanted attention from someone way more senior than them. Because this isn't the first time I've seen it in a newsroom. I can think of probably around 3 other people that I've worked with who have been accused of something very similar, and they've all been newsreaders. I'm not saying that all newsreaders are bad. There are some beautiful people. Most of them are great. But I have seen it a couple of times, and I wonder whether it's a men in power thing or particularly a men on screen and in power thing.
Maybe it's something to do with the responsibility, because certainly in the case of Hugh Edwards, he was the face of the BBC. He was the face of every major event. And with that comes a huge amount of stress, I would think. And, you know, it's quite well documented that he's had some mental issues in the past, or has been dogged with them, you know, by them for the last 20 years or so. And I can understand that. I really can.
Yeah, I just think that maybe where younger people are involved, we need to be very careful because that does affect their entire lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before everything gets too in the doldrums, I will just point out that I had the most wonderful weekend last weekend, which is why...
Did you now?
Yeah. Which is,
what were you up to then, and where was my invite?
Well, I went to a yoga retreat. I've never done yoga before. Thought I'd go for this. Well, I got stuck in the traffic on the A1M for 7.5 hours, so I missed the yoga.
That sounds lovely.
I know.
What a treat that was.
My paddleboarding the following morning was cancelled because whilst we're all decked out and standing by the lake waiting to go in, the thunder and lightning came.
Oh, no.
And the guy...
Is there good news for this? I thought you said you were getting out of the doldrums.
Yes. Well, no, because the guy goes, oh, it'll pass in a few minutes. Well, you know, we'll be able to go out. And I'm going, no, we won't. No, I was watching this thunder and lightning this morning. That's not going away. So we had to call it off in the end, had to call that off. So in the afternoon, wait for this, 2:00 yoga, 4:00 trekking with alpacas.
Alpacas?
6:30.
No way, that must be so great.
Yeah, 6:30 gin tasting.
Best that way round.
Before dinner at 7:30, so I was just say four full-size gins in an hour, and none of us could actually remember what we had for tea. But anyway, and then paddleboarding on Sunday morning, but it was more than just paddleboarding. It was doing yoga on a paddleboard.
No. Did you end up in the drink?
I didn't, but I don't know how, because a lot of others went in, and certainly when we were doing the yoga, they went down like dominoes. It was hysterical, absolutely
I've been
hysterical.
paddleboarding once in Norfolk, and I was in the sea.
Were you?
Yeah, not in the sea paddleboard, just in the sea.
Yes. Well, absolutely fantastic holiday that was. And you know something? I'll give you the link to it to put on the
Oh, brilliant.
bit of blurb at the bottom if somebody fancies it. Oh, it was just amazing. Such a good time. So I've got to find something suitably weird, wonderful, and enjoyable to mention next week.
Okay, well, the challenge is on.
You just decide when you're going on holiday, so I know when I can take a bit of a break and enjoy the sunshine.
When you can just head down to the beach, the local one.
When Steph leaves, all will be well. In the meantime, enjoy the wind and the rain, and we'll speak to you next week.
Goodbye. We're Jo and Steff from Square Raindrop.